The year is 2004. The show is Dateline NBC. The man is Chris Hansen.
Hey guys, friends, pals, how's it going? This is I Need Friends, a podcast about whatever. Why am I bringing up a show from 2004 that was canceled in 2007? Well, about a year ago, when everyone was stuck at home in the pandemic, which is still going on currently, but when everyone was actually staying home, those first couple weeks, I don't know, those first few days probably is more accurate. But when everyone was stuck at home, Dateline NBC's To Catch a Predator clips were just blowing up on YouTube. They were just showing up everywhere. And I get these bouts of insomnia, if you will, where sometimes I just can't sleep. So I'll stay up till 3 a.m. just watching random YouTube videos, just trying to get my mind to stop moving so fast. So I just watch garbage clips on YouTube of people getting in car accidents or just people falling or someone freaking out in public, or clips of To Catch a Predator with Chris Hansen. If you don't know what To Catch a Predator is, one, I don't know how you don't know. Two, I'll tell you. To Catch a Predator, like I said, was on Dateline NBC, and it was hosted by Chris Hansen, and it was just a sting operation where Dateline NBC is working with this private group and law enforcement, and you have these adults that are these decoys pretending to be children online, usually 13, 14-year-olds, sometimes 12. And they start chatting with adults, and then once they all get set up at a sting house, they'll try to get the guys to come over there, and then they'll have them arrested. So it's kind of a cool show. It's on one hand, it's gross because they'll read parts of the chat to you when Chris Hansen comes out and confronts the people, the creeps that show up. He reads some of the chats and they're gross, but you're watching this person get arrested and taken to jail, and they're not doing this to a real kid now. And so you can be excited about that. Everyone likes to watch someone, get theirs. I don't believe in karma. We won't get into the whole karma thing, but you know how, karma, that's what you get for trying to hook up with a 13-year-old, you freak. Anyway, it's crazy, all the different guys that show up on the show. It's not like there's this one stereotypical type of creep. You have all these different guys, and the reason the show got canceled is because I think a local politician, I'm not sure, I think he was involved in government in some way, but he ended up messaging someone that worked with the show, and they were trying to get him to come to the house, and he wouldn't come to the sting house. So Chris Hansen's fuck it, we'll go there and we'll confront him at his house. And so he takes the crew there. Police show up, they're surrounding his house, they're trying to get him to come outside. The guy eventually shoots himself in his home while he's surrounded. Not really surprising necessarily. So obviously they canceled this show, but it would probably still be going today. Well, I don't know, maybe. But if that hadn't happened, it was wildly popular. And anyway, like I said, it's all over YouTube. So there's just all these clips from the show. You can watch full episodes, but it's crazy, the number of guys that would just show up. It's you watch these clips. If you have, like hours of your life a night to just waste watching a bunch of To Catch a Predator on YouTube, you'll think like, oh, I've seen all of these guys. Surely there's no more like new videos, and there's always more. And so, like I said, like all these dudes are different. There's not this one like stereotypical look that like fits with them. You get old guys, you get young guys, you get polished guys, you get drug users. Like, one of the younger guys that showed up, he was 26. Like he comes in and he just starts like washing his hands. It's weird. Like all of these people come in and they just start washing their hands. Maybe it's actually not that weird. Maybe I should be washing my hands when I come into people's homes and I'm the weird one. But it's just they seem so comfortable doing it. Like that's what's weird about it. It's they just walk in and go up to the kitchen sink like, and you're like, yo, chill. Like you've never been here before. And so this dude's washing his hands at the sink and he's facing the window. He's looking out the window. And Chris Hansen just comes up behind him and hands him a paper towel. And the dude grabs the towel and then he like realizes like, oh shit, that's a dude next to me. And he's trying to play it cool at first, but he's like so nervous and he just immediately starts saying that he wasn't going to do anything. And Chris Hansen has the chat log in his hands and he's like, oh, you know, she wanted you to bring alcohol, or no, she wanted you to bring condoms. Did you bring? No, I didn't bring any condoms. I wasn't going to do that. I didn't bring them with me. And he's like, well, why don't you empty your pockets? He's just wearing jeans, like these normal ass looking jeans. And he pulls out this fucking bottle of 151. It's barely got anything in it. Like it's almost empty. Pulls it just out of his pocket. Like, and just sets it on the counter. He's like, it's way watered down. It's way watered down. Like I wasn't gonna, you know, I'm not trying to get her drunk or anything. Like, you know, I promise. And and Chris Hansen's like, he shows him a picture that this dude had sent in the chat log of, you know, you can guess. And he's like, did you send that? And the dude goes, oh my, I'm sorry. I feel bad. They need controls on those chat rooms. And Chris Hansen's like, what the fuck? Like you didn't have to come here. Like you drove here. And he's like, oh, I just came because I didn't want to hurt someone's feelings. Like, you know, I didn't want to make her feel like, you know, it was her. And so Hansen just keeps reading like all this creepy, gross stuff he's saying to who he thinks is a 13-year-old. Ooh. And he's just like, I'm sorry. And he clearly hadn't seen the show because he had no idea he was going to be arrested. And like, he's so grateful to Chris Hansen for letting him go. And of course he goes out and he gets arrested. He's like, oh, please don't do this. Like, I'm on probation. And he's like, oh, what are you on probation for? And it was like possession of meth. And he's like, oh, when's the last time you started? He's like, 2 months ago, I swear. And the cop's like, 2 months ago usually means 2 days ago. You know, they always got to have like some kind of quip. I swear, like cops probably spend more time training on like clapbacks than they do on like, you know, restraining themselves every now and then when it comes to dealing with citizens. But we're not going to get into that right now because we're talking about creeps on the internet. But yeah, he had a meth pipe on him. So he got, you know, in trouble for more than one thing. And then you get like married dudes. So this newlywed guy shows up. He'd just been married like a few months ago, I think. He's 33 years old. So also pretty young. Like compared to some of the like 60-year-old creeps that show up. I'm not saying it's surprising that a 33-year-old is a creep. It's just, I don't know. Maybe it's like when I think about like a pedophile, I just picture like an old creep. I don't picture like a normal ass looking 30-something-year-old, but that's what, I mean, they're just like normal people. They look just like us. Anyway, so this guy, he just recently got married and he's talking to one of the decoys and he shows up and like, he's already kind of like suspicious because the girl doesn't look like her picture. And he's all like, oh, am I at the right house? And then, of course, Chris Hansen comes out and he's like, oh, man, I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. And Chris Hansen's like, then why did you come? And he's like, oh, I just knew it. And he just storms right out of the house. And, of course, the cops are out there and they're like, turn around, put your hands behind your back. And he's all like, I know. Like, what were you thinking? So, like, you're driving up this whole time being like, oh, man, I'm probably going to get arrested, but I'm just going to go anyway. That was a great idea. Anyway, I mean, I'm glad they showed up because then they got arrested and they probably would have started talking to someone else had that not been the case. And then there was, let's see, what was this other guy? He was 40 something years old. He was in his 40s and he fucking looked like Mario. I think the person who posted the video even like included that in the title. Like they called him like the Mario Predator or something because he's got this red sweatshirt on. He's got a red ball cap. He's got, the little mustache. And he just like walks into this like girl's house at 2:30 in the morning. Shows up at 2:30 in the morning and like the decoy's calling from the other room like, "Oh, I'm just changing my clothes. I'll be out in a second." And then of course Chris Hansen walks out and he's like, "Little late to be prowling around these neighborhoods." And the guy just like starts off totally trying to play it cool. And he's like, "Oh, yeah, for sure." And he's like, "What are you doing here?" He's like, "Oh, just hanging out." And of course, Chris Hansen has the chat log in his hands. And so he starts reading it to him and he had said to him at one point, I guess this is like supposed to be like a 15-year-old that he was talking to because he's like, "Baby, 15 can get me 20." And it's like, you knew that coming over here, you were going to get in trouble. They all try to like claim some kind of ignorance, like, "Oh, I mean, we were just going to hang out," or, "Oh, I didn't know that she was 13. It's like, it's always bullshit. And like, Chris Hansen has the whole chat log right there. So it's like, how are you going to fucking say that? That's when they start falling apart when he starts reading it because one, I think they're realizing like how gross, like when they hear it back to themselves, they kind of cringe at themselves. And hopefully they realize like, that's fucking creepy and you need to get your shit together. A lot of them don't, but but then also, I mean, they have it right there. I mean, this guy's reading your words back to you. There's really not much denying you can do at that point. And you get some real characters too, just weird people. Like this one guy shows up and he's got a cowboy hat on and he's got a button-up shirt completely unbuttoned and the sleeves are ripped off. Just looking real sharp. And when Chris Hansen comes out, he tries to say that he's looking for work and he does like blacktop ceiling or something. And obviously it was just a terrible excuse, which doesn't matter anyway, even if it was convincing. Chris Hansen has the chat log in his hand and starts saying to him like, "Oh, what's the biggest that you've had? Can you send me nude photos?" And then he tried to blame it on his cousin. He's like, "Oh, well, my cousin was staying at my house and I think he was getting on the internet, like doing stuff under my name." And they're like, What? So this was your cousin. Then you find out this dude has kids. That's like one of them's like the same age as the girl. And then you find out that he actually can't see them. And you're like, okay, well, now you got all these other problems. Just rocking his cowboy hat like the whole time. I think he eventually takes it off because he's like, "Oh, well, I need to be a gentleman. Can't wear my hat inside." I think that guy was probably like in his 30s. Actually, you know what? I think a lot of these guys are like in their 30s and 40s. You get like some like older dudes. Like there's one guy who's like in his 50s and very quickly started talking about, going to lunch and going to see a movie to, like giving oral to each other. So just normal conversation you would have with a teenager you don't know. It's just standard stuff to talk about. And it's just like when he comes home, not home, when he comes to the Sting house, he's like, I don't know, he just like makes himself like so comfortable. He just seems so at ease. And it's like, you shouldn't be like, ooh, like you're in someone else's house with this young girl, her parents aren't home, and you're just at ease. You're like, this is my zen. Like, this is my happy place. It's like, oh, it's so creepy when they're like really comfortable when they come in. And his excuse, his first excuse when Chris Hansen came out was that, well, oh, sir, I came here because, she doesn't need to be talking to people like that on the internet. So I was going to wait till her mother got home and I was going to tell her what was going on. Chris Hansen's like, you were going to wait here at like 1 a.m. for her mother to get home so that you could explain to her that you were sending her explicit messages on the internet. That's going to go over well. And then he pulls out the Jesus card and he's like, look, I'm a man of faith and God is my savior and I'm telling you the truth. And he's like, oh, so you're a religious man. Like, what do you think? Like, God ain't helping you in this situation unless you're part of the Catholic Church. Then he's got your back. But otherwise, you're screwed. But, it creeps me out when they're just so comfortable. Like, one, I think it just makes it seem like they've done it before. And two, it's like, you should be disgusted with yourself, like, the whole time you're doing this. Like, seeing the smile on their face. Like, there was this one guy, his name was Lorne, shows up at this house, and as he's walking up, you hear him all like, hey, girl, like, ugh, just disgusting. And he just comes right in, and she's got, like, they have this massage chair set up. So she's like, oh, sit in the massage chair. And like, he's turning the thing on, propping his feet up. He's getting all comfortable. She's like, the decoy is like asking him if, if he brought the stuff that they were talking about. Rosie, can you chill? My dog is like just making all kinds of noise over there. She's probably frustrated. I haven't been paying a lot of attention to her today. I will later, Rosie, okay? I'm talking about creeps on the internet. Anyway, so back to this guy, Lorne, who comes in, chilling on the massage chair. It's like, brought her a bracelet, apparently. She's all like, what do you want to do first? And he's like, oh, how about a kiss? Like, ooh, no. So obviously she's not going to give him a kiss. And then Chris Hansen comes in with the chat log. And the decoy just dips. Like, that's what always happens. Whenever Chris Hansen comes in, the decoy just, like, bolts out of the room, which I just love for some reason. It's like, ugh, can't even be around you. Like, I'm just going to leave. And, of course, like, the guy knows what's going on. And he gets, like, really upset. And Chris Hansen's reading the chat log to him. And the massage chair is still on. So he's, like, sitting in the chair and you see his chest like moving up and down because he's in the massage chair while he's getting fucking grilled by Chris Hansen, reading back messages to him, things like, I'm going to spoil you like I spoil my nieces. That, ooh, so gross. Can you imagine being the parents of those girls? You're like, oh my God, okay, we need to get them into therapy. You're never seeing them again. We're going to wipe away any history of ever associating with this person. Look through all the birthday pictures, delete anyone that he's in. If you printed any of them, burn them. This is gross. This is disgusting. I'm not going to sleep for a week. I'm traumatized for life. Like, just, ew, spoil you like I spoil my nieces. Ugh, gross. It's so gross. And like, and some of these dudes they're just out there. Just fucking out there with the excuses that came up with. Rosie, can you chill? She's just so cute, though. I can't be mad at her. She's a little old beagle. She's an old lady. Anyway. So, yeah, they come up with these crazy excuses. Like this one guy shows up and he's there to see another boy. And you find out that he had walked for a couple hours. He took a bus. He had to walk even more. He shows up. It's like almost midnight or something. So he comes in and he like almost doesn't stay but he ends up coming back, and like the decoy is like talking to him from another room saying that like he's going to brush his teeth or something. I think it's actually a woman that's pretending to be like a 14-year-old boy. So Chris Hansen comes out. Of course, he's like, "What are you doing here?" This guy says he's looking for work, but he really sticks to his story. Unlike the guy that said that he was doing blacktop, who just fell apart immediately. This guy was like, "No, I'm here to see this guy, John Pedersen. He works in construction. Someone called me and told me to come here, so I was just going to come leave a note." And Chris Hansen's like, I'm sorry, you're doing what? You're just going to walk into someone's house at 11 o'clock at night and just like, "Oh, hey, here you go. Like, I left a note on your kitchen counter about getting work." And so, of course, he's like, "Well, who called you?" And he's, "Oh, I don't know. It was just someone. Someone just called me." And it's just, the whole thing sounds terrible. And again, it doesn't even matter because Hansen has the chat log in his hands. And he's like, "You were talking to this boy, or who you thought was a boy, saying that you can help him advance his modeling career, that you've worked with all these like movie productions, and that all he has to do is have sex with you." And, disgusting. And you can tell like this guy's clearly not involved in any type of filmmaking. And unless they're his own private perverted films. I don't want to think about that. But this guy he'd been arrested in the past for rape. He had been arrested for like assault with a deadly weapon. Just not a good look for this guy. But he refuses to back down. He's like, "Nope, this is my story. I'm sticking to it." Even as Chris Hansen is reading the chat log to him, he's like, "Oh, no, I was at the library. Someone must have got on my screen name. Like, I don't know, someone's trying to mess with me." And he's talking to Chris Hansen for 20 minutes. So long that he just forgets his lies. And now this guy, John Pedersen, who he was supposedly supposed to meet, is now Scott Pedersen. And he's even continuing the same story as he's leaving, and the cops are arresting him. And you're just like, dude, like, what the fuck are you thinking? Like, I know that it's natural for humans to like go into defense mode, and when they think they're going to get in trouble, like we just naturally want to lie. Like we want to avoid the trouble. So I understand that, but it's just like, do you really think that this is going to work out for you? Like this is convincing. This is the way to get out of this. I mean, he's got a stack of fucking papers right in front of him with everything that you said. "Oh, I haven't used that email in a long time, so I must use that email." "Oh, okay. Well, in that case, sir, why don't you be on your way? I hope you have a lovely evening. Have a great bus ride home. Like, do you need some bus fare? I think I can give you a few dollars." Like, what did you think was going to happen? Like, no, it's obviously bullshit. I think my favorite one, though, is this guy who tries to act like he was there to look at a house for sale. So he's waiting in the kitchen. Chris Hansen comes out to confront him, and he just immediately like shakes his hand. He's like, "Oh, thank you, sir. Nice to see you." And he's like, "What are you doing here?" And he's like, "Oh, well, you know, I heard this house was for sale. I knew it was for sale, so I wanted to come in." And Chris Hansen's like, "Oh, who told you it was for sale?" He goes, "Oh, this friend, such and such." And he even gives him a phone number. And then he's like, "If it's not that number, it's this number." And Chris Hansen calls it, and it's someone else. So then he tries the other number, I think, and they don't answer. But it is like, he gets the voicemail, and it is the person that he said. Anyway, obviously the house isn't for sale, but he's still like trying to be all cool about it. He's asking, things about the house. He's like, "This is a nice house. What is it, 4 bedrooms? 3 bathrooms, right?" And you're like, what? Dude, you're not getting away with this. Like, just let it go. And then, of course, Chris Hansen starts reading the chat log and just exposes everything. This guy's like laying on the floor now, like breathing all heavy. You don't know if he's faking it, if he's being for real. Like, either one is plausible in that scenario, I think. And he's like, "I promise I'll be a good man in the future." And Chris Hansen's like, "All right, you can go." And then he gets arrested on his way out, just like all the other ones. Well, almost all the other ones, because there was one where two guys showed up and only one got arrested. They might have both gotten arrested, but only one got charged. And the reason is because, I mean, I think from watching the video that the guy really didn't know. So there was a 20-year-old and a 22-year-old. The 20-year-old was the one that was messaging, I think, like the 13-year-old girl. Oh, no. She was supposedly 12. She was supposed to be 12. And he brought some, like a 6-pack of Mike's Hard, because that's what they were talking about in the chat, was like, you know, bringing something for her to drink. And you see the guy, when he's confronted, his friend that he brings with him, the 22-year-old, he sees what's going on. And they don't really know who they're talking to. I don't think they recognize Chris Hansen. But, you know, his friend knows, like, okay, well, we're in some kind of trouble. And I think he might have known that the girl was younger, or maybe didn't ask. Like, I mean, if your friend says something like, hey, I'm going to go hang out with this girl, I'm going to go see this friend, you're not like, oh, yeah, how old are they? Are they of proper age? You'd be like, why the fuck are you asking me that? Like, so anyway, I really think that he didn't know, because when Chris Hansen starts reading the chat log and says her age, when she says her age, you see the look on the guy's face and his whole demeanor changes. Like, he was kind of being like smiley and smirky at first, like thinking it was kind of funny, I guess, that his friend was getting a little busted. But then he's just, I don't know. To me, he looked extremely uncomfortable. Looked to me like he didn't know. And I kind of wanted to find out more about it. And thankfully, since this shit, like I said, blew up on YouTube, like there were so many people that have channels about it, I was able to find some answers. That's how I found out he wasn't charged. And all these people were, you know, kind of figuring it out for themselves, watching the video and trying to decide, totally based on body language, right? So, I mean, you can't really know for sure. You're ultimately like guessing, but it really seemed like he didn't know. And then, you know, they decided not to charge him. So they were convinced with the same thing. And the other guy was charged, obviously, but I really think that he didn't know, but he thought like, oh man, he thought he was going to get out of there when Chris Hansen said that they could go. He's like, oh, thank you so much, sir. And he's like, what about the cameras? Like, is this going to be on camera? Because I really don't want this to be on camera. Like, he had no idea that he's getting arrested when he walks out that door. But yeah, so all these people on YouTube do these videos of like, you know, they'll post the clips, they'll put compilations of like the grossest predators, the most hated predators, the funniest predators, like funny in the sense like they're easy to laugh at because they're so ridiculous. Like the guy saying that at 11:30 he's looking for John Pedersen to leave a note in his kitchen to do construction work for him, you know, things like that. But they also do like these analysis. They'll follow up, they'll look and see what's happened like with someone's arrest record and what happened with them when they got out of jail. Apparently some of these dudes like even get married. And then I find out that Chris Hansen did another show back in fucking 2016 called Hansen versus Predator, which is like the exact same thing as To Catch a Predator. And they have like the uncut episodes of that where you can watch like the uncut interview with Chris Hansen. You can watch the full interview with them at the police station. It's just like just about everything you can think of. There's reaction videos. I mean, people are like obsessed with this, and there's something about it that like I know I'm really just drawn to. When I start watching one video, I want to keep watching them. It's so like awesome when they get arrested, and like even when Chris Hansen is like confronting them because he's such an asshole, but you're fine with him being an asshole to these guys because they're like creeps. But people on YouTube do not like Chris Hansen. Like there's a lot of good reasons to not like him. Like he's a total dick. I think he gives himself way too much credit for what's involved with this work. Like he doesn't do anything. Like he hosts the show. He doesn't even get the chat log until like right before the dude shows up and he's going out there. So like if you ever watch clips of it and you see him kind of rifling through the sheets of paper, looking at the chat log, he's looking for something because he doesn't know what's there, because he's barely been prepped on it, because he's not involved with anything else aside from confronting these guys. It's like he gets off on it. I mean, you're happy to have someone do it, but, you know, you don't really want to praise the guy for his work because he's not doing anything. So when he was with To Catch a Predator with Dateline NBC, they worked with a group called Perverted Justice, and they would, you know, have these decoys that would just be online in chat rooms waiting to talk to some old person, and they'd set up this sting with local law enforcement, try to get him out there. And I mean, it's gross. Like, you can actually, I found this out through YouTube, you can actually read some of the archived chat logs. Just beware if you do. There's something like grossly fascinating in the sense that I can't believe that there are real people talking to who they think are children like this. But it's also like, it's hard to read. So you might not want to. But anyway, it's pervertedjustice.com if you feel like totally creeping yourself out. But they're the ones that do all the work beforehand. And then law enforcement does all the work afterwards. They're the ones spending all the time at the police station, and they have to sit there with them. And when you watch these interviews, because they're all over YouTube, when you watch these interviews, like, the police come in there and they're like trying to act like they're all understanding just to get them to, you know, open up. And I'm just like, oh, it's so gross. You have to like pretend to be friendly with this person that, you know, was just trying to have sex with a 13-year-old. Excuse me, was trying to rape a 13-year-old, because let's be real, that's not like consensual when you're that age. You can't really, you can't really make those decisions. You're 13. Oh, these old is so creepy. And the ones from Hansen versus Predator, those long videos, oh, there's some weird dudes on there. I might do a whole episode just on like 3 guys from that show, like later on. I'm not gonna like flood the podcast with stuff about pedophiles, because you can only take that in small doses. Ugh, it's just so creepy. Anyway, like I said, there's just something kind of like grossly fascinating about it. I guess, like, you know, kind of with true crime, and people on YouTube kind of like built a little community around it. Like, I was seeing all these weird comments that just weren't making any sense to me, and they were just sounding kind of creepy. And then by watching the videos, I realized that all these people are actually it's these inside jokes that all these YouTubers have with each other about stuff that the Predators have said, or what Hansen said when he was confronting them. And like, people were starting drinking games, saying this was like saving them from the boredom of quarantine. There were even some people on there talking about how like they would call it like the TCAP community, To Catch a Predator, TCAP, in case you're not following. Anyway, they say the TCAP community, you know, is giving me, you know, a sense of togetherness. I was really depressed, and having you guys as friends is helping. So it was like its own kind of like tiny little phenomenon. I don't know, but I've been enjoying it. You know, who doesn't want to see creepos getting arrested? You can watch it all over YouTube. But I think we've talked about that enough today. So let me know if you want to hear another episode about Hansen versus Predator. I could talk about this stuff for a long time. I just don't really like to talk about it for that long. But I will, for your benefit. Or you can just go watch it on YouTube. If you just look up Hansen versus Predator, you'll find the creeps on there. Ugh, so creepy. But you'll fall down a rabbit hole, so you got to have some time to waste. Anyway, guys, that's all for today. Thanks for hanging out with me and being my figurative friend. Appreciate your time. And I'll catch you on the flip side.